So now that we've learned how to create a bunch of different types of plots, let's actually learn how to export these plots so that we can use them, share them with other people, or include them in publications that we're working on. So let's stick with this box plot that we just made with the nice jittered points on top of it. At the most basic level, what you can do to export this plot that I have here is click this export button here in the bottom right panel of RStudio. It gives you three options. You can either save this as an image, save it as a PDF, or copy it to your clipboard if you want to kind of copy the image and paste it somewhere else. A lot of times you can use the PDF and the image functions, the image buttons most often. So if I click on Save as Image, it opens up this window here where I can select the image format, whether I want it to be a PNG, a JPEG, a TIFF, whatever. You can change the width and the height if you would like. Click whether or not you want to maintain the aspect ratio on these. You can select your directory here. This is the file pathway where you want to save the image. It should default to your working directory if you have that set. And here you can name your plot that you want to produce. If you hit this preview button, it brings up the plot into the preview mode here, and this is what you're going to be saving. So if you click Save, a version of this will then appear in your working directory. However, the problem with using this export button here in RStudio is that the default resolution for images you exported in that way is actually only 72 dots per inch. And for those who are aware, a value of 72 dpi is really poor resolution. Most academic journals require you to supply figures that are at least 300 dpi, dots per inch. So 72 would never cut it. And even for just sharing with a lot of colleagues or collaborators or including in presentations, 72 dpi is not going to look very good. You're going to end up with really rough looking lines and shapes and whatnot on your plots. So there's actually a better way to export plots if you're going to be kind of sharing them in a more formal or professional way, or you just require a little bit higher quality image. And basically what you do to do this is you can use one of a set of different functions. The one that I tend to use for kind of some common purposes is the JPEG function. There's also a PNG function, there's a PDF function, several other functions you can use. So you can explore those on your own time. They're all broadly similar. But this JPEG function and the rest of them, how it basically works is you include it before the code to plot whatever kind of image you're trying to create. Within the JPEG function, you want to name the plot that you're producing. And remember to specify that it is a .jpg in this case, and put that in quotes. That's a file name at this point. We can also specify, let me drag this window a little bit so you can see better. We can specify the height of the plot. We can say we want it to be 4 units high, specify a width of 5, and set the units equal to inches, for example. Now, most importantly, because I was just setting it up as a poor resolution from the export button, we use this res argument, where we can set this res equals 300. Now we're saying, all right, this is now a 300 dot per inch JPEG that we're producing here. So this code right here will open up a pathway into your working directory, and it will save this JPEG file that you're producing. Now, if you just run this alone, what I have highlighted here, it's going to get very confused because you haven't actually told it what you want to save to that JPEG. You need to then run some plotting code. Once you do that, you're then going to need to close this connection down to that JPEG that's being produced in your working directory. And we do that using the dev.off function. Just like this, leave the function blank. You don't need to put anything in it at all. This function by itself clears the plotting window in RStudio and resets the plotting parameters. So you can see by running that dev.off function, I just turned off all plots. They're all gone now from RStudio. I've deleted all of them. If I saved them elsewhere, of course they still exist, but within RStudio it's cleared everything. And if I had any weird parameter settings using the par function, dev.off should clear those as well. And so if you want to then export this box plot with the points here, what you should do is have this JPEG or PNG or PDF function in front, have the dev off function at the end, and highlight the whole thing and run it all together. And if I run all of this, it will export a JPEG to my working directory that is 300 dpi, it's 4 inches high, 5 inches wide. It's called Bronze Age boxplot.jpg, and it's exactly this. It's going to produce a really high quality image based on this box plot that you've got here. And of course, it's also important to note that when you start manipulating the height and the width in the JPEG function, that's not the same as the default height and width you have here. As you can see, I can drag that plotting window in RStudio, and in doing so, I'm changing the height and width of that plot. I can also do it in this direction as well. And so when you start specifying in a function what the height and width of your plot is going to be, it's not going to look like the plot that you're seeing in the window right here. So sometimes it's a bit of trial and error to find plotting dimensions, height and width that you like in this JPEG function, because again, it's not the same as the dimensions you're dealing with in this preview right here in RStudio. So that's something that you'll need to play around with, and you'll get comfortable with it soon enough. But this is definitely the best way to actually export a high-quality version of your plot that you can include in publications or slideshows or share with people.